I have a 13 by 19 artboard set up, and that is my largest paper that I can print on here. So that's cool. Is that if I want the option to print this, then I have that. So that is what's going on there, and I recommend the same to you, a 13 by 19. Obviously, the 19 is the width, 13 is the height. We are going to do this example. Let's bring that in so that we can refer to it. And I'm going to say File, Open the image as a layer. And even if you are not, if for no other reason, it is good to bring these in. I'm going to hit Control T now and make it bigger so that you can refer to the colors, because you may just want to be able to use the colors from a drawing that you're going to have. So I'm going to be able to sample that at will. And yeah, so that is the idea. And by the way, as far as sampling goes, you want to be able to refer to the colors in an image like this. We all know how to sample colors by coming over here to our toolbar on the far left and clicking on the eyedropper and picking a color. I'm going to start off with, I guess, with the blue background here. So that's pretty easy, but you can also mid-stroke so that you don't have to change tools. You can just hit the Alt key and then click on it. So you can press the Alt key on your keyboard, and that turns whatever tool you're using into the eyedropper momentarily, and you can sample and then return to what you're doing. So I'm probably going to do that a few times. All right. So with my first layer, and I'm going to switch these layers. So on my very first layer here, I'm going to start at the top, I guess, and begin with this blue background. What I'm going to do to get things going on the right footing is just make a square that is that blue color for about half my screen there. Okay, so that is just going to be the background behind my stroke. So that's going to help out quite a bit. And now I'm going to start painting my wave form on top of that. And I guess the color I'm going to use to start with my first waveform is going to be this green color. So I'm going to take the Alt key and sample this sort of a greenish color. The pen I am using is, I have the regular brush tool here. I have my acrylic brush type, okay? I have, and you can see the attributes down here. I'm just going with all the defaults for now. Nothing special. I have a fairly large brush, as you can see, and that's going to make some pretty big strokes, maybe bigger than I need to be. And I might be able to make that a little smaller. I have it on 169 right now, maybe 100. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that's probably about right. Maybe slightly larger, maybe 125. All right. So getting this thing going, I'm going to do the basic shape here. So I'm coming out. Kind of from about this high up and swooping around and gonna make it go in like this. And maybe that's not the good shape. Hit Control Z to undo, and you can redo it as much as you want till you get the basic look you're after. Right now I have the correction on 18. I might want it to be more round. I can go up to as much as 40 to get more of that smoothing correction. And I think I'm gonna do that. It's not quite Not quite the curve I'm after there. Take a few times. That's about right. So I'm going to go with this as my initial curve and follow this and kind of then take it to a point, okay? So some something like this. And we're going to have lots of opportunity to add to it. So this is just the basic shape. And now I'm going to start doing my little strokes here. Pick a lighter color and kind of overlapping, this kind of thing here. Just here and there, lots and lots of it. Might turn that correction down. Because this is a very time-consuming process, There's going to be a lot of these strokes. So I'm just kind of doing them randomly right now. And I know they're going to add up when I get all my bits and pieces together here. And now I'll change a color, hold my Alt key, maybe sample a different spot here, and start coming in. Hopefully this isn't too boring for you. I'll try to go as quick as I can. So I'm holding the Alt key, sampling again, getting some slightly different colors here. Trying to just mix this up as much as possible. And I know I'm going a little quick here, but okay. Maybe go toward the whiter side. And you can just hit Control Z if you make any strokes you don't like. I just erased a couple of them there. Wasn't happy with. Trying to get in here. All right, pick a different color. Maybe something a little more blue. And that's another really easy way to get colors. Just come up here to your color bar and just click on, a different spot. And trying to get this shape a little better here. Okay, it's starting to work. That's starting to work. Let's bring this picture back. So if I was okay with that as my initial blue wave, then I have on the sky the returning greenish sort of wave that comes underneath, and whips around. So I'm going to work on that one now, and I'm going to go to a new layer. And so this is critical to make a new layer, to make a layer for each one of these shapes. And so now I'm going to go to this green one, and let me move this thing, kind of move it out of the way because I'm going to work in here. So I'm going to come in here with this green one and go underneath like this, and then come up here and whip it around. So just to kind of make its basic outline, I'm going to hold the Alt key down and sample this greenish color. It's going to do something like this. Wait a sec, let me get on the right one here. Right, so maybe a little more curvy here, and then a little more curvy here, something like that. So that's kind of its basic shape. And then this is going to swoop out, follow this one around. And go up like this and curve down and curl back in on itself. Right, so that's kind of that shape. And you can see it doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to make this up with so many strokes that it's really not critical right now that you get it right on the money. So just kind of getting the feel of this one. Here we go. Just kind of going up like this, coming down like this one here. Coming back on itself here. That's kind of my basic shape. That's what I'm after. Something like this. And then this one is just gonna go like that. And this is the red one will come into this area in here, this reddish one. So start making more of these lines like we were before. And this is just kind of the base of it. I could probably do larger arcs. All right, and then go to a more whiter color here. Try to get some more curve into this one. Sample a different color there. Having that painting to sample the colors from is just huge, That makes all the difference. It would be hard to come up with these colors on my own. It's definitely a time-consuming process. but fun. It's kind of therapeutic. And now if you wanted, I could go on a layer kind of underneath this one, underneath this wave. I could make a layer beneath this wave, and that's what I'm going to do. And take this slightly different color, like a lighter color here, and a larger brush, and just kind of paint underneath it. So to get rid of that blue. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm just painting underneath this wave, just to get rid of that blue that was there. And so there's no white and no blue showing through. So again, I am just painting underneath this, just catching all the blue or white space in my strokes here, because I don't want any of that to show up in this green area, right? So just getting rid of that. And getting rid of the blue that was underneath here. So I'm just painting right underneath all these strokes I made on a layer beneath them, just so that no white space and no blue is showing through all those little paint strokes that I just made. There you go. And that's looking a little better. All right. Hopefully. I think that's looking pretty good. I could maybe tighten up the inside curve here just a little bit. Yeah. Okay. So that's and if I just show you the green, look at this. That's just the repair work I just did. So that was the filling in the open spaces underneath this thing here. I know it looks super sloppy, but basically I was just trying to make sure there wasn't any, stuff showing through that I didn't want. So that's all I needed to do. Okay, so I'm gonna make a new layer up on top of that one. Lots of layers. And this one, I'm gonna do this cool reddish looking color, right? Reddish and orange. I guess it's mostly orange. So I'm gonna sample that, hold my Alt key down and sample that color. And yeah, so this is gonna kind of go up into here, and I'll have it whip around into here and kind of go out to the edge. So this is just gonna kind of take over the whole rest of the bottom. Um, so here we go. You know what? I think what I'll do is just block in that whole area. So check it out. That'll be really simple. I could do this with a shape, or I could just make this brush really large. And I'm just gonna make the brush really large. I'll make the brush like 500, and then come in here and just say, you know what, this whole, whoops, sorry. Let me do it underneath. I'm gonna move this layer underneath these guys and just say, uh, this is all going to be this orange color. And that's just going to, there we go. And then I'll just paint on top of that. All right. So that's kind of my background layer for that. And now I'm going to my, again, back to my new layer. And this is where I'll actually put the strokes. So is that being my background color, I'm going to sample the lighter, the more yellowy colors here, try to get that. And let's do it. So larger strokes here. Just kind of going along the edge to get this initial shape. Uh, and then of course we'll fill in with lots of these, taking in the body that, and these will overlap, of course. Switch to a lighter color. Maybe one that's not quite so gray. All right. I think that's good for that bottom wave shape. And I think this is going to satisfy as my basic wave background. If we wanted to come in and blur this work, we could. I'm not gonna, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So coming down to my smudge tool and making my smudge brush pretty large here and being on the right layer, I could come in and just kind of blur this work a little bit. Click and drag if you wanted to kind of blend these things together. And if you don't get carried away with it, it can look good, but it's easy to get a little carried away. So be careful with it. And now I'm going to go to my green, just give that a little bit of blur just to make it look a little more like brush strokes, a little less like computer work, you know. And now for the blue. Well, that was too big, definitely too big. So just hit Control Z. Make sure you're pulling it in the right direction. If you go against the grain, it becomes quite noticeable. And you don't have to do this. I'm just showing you that it's an option for you. So yeah, that was a little bit of smudge tool to make the strokes look a little bit more like a paintbrush. Okay, and so this is my basic background, and now I am in a situation where I can start adding stuff to the foreground. I can start adding stuff to the sky. So I might go make a new layer on top here and do this kind of a moon shape up here. So I'm going to sample that that color there and create basically just a big circle. I could actually, if I didn't want to do it freehand, I could use the snaps here, and I'm going to. So when I click on the snap, I'm going to click on the snap setting tool and relocate it to where I want it, which is basically over here. Click. And now I can just color this in really fast. I'm going to make my brush to a little bit bigger, and I have the right color. And I'm just going to, didn't want airbrush, sorry. I wanted acrylic. I'm going to make this just kind of big, about the size I'm after here. And then I can come in with the brighter colors and follow that up. And then successive layers that, you know, and maybe make this brush a little smaller now and sample the blue around it. And then there we go. So that's kind of the colors he used. Now that looks kind of weird with it being so uniform, but we could smudge that up if we wanted. We could, you know, let's see what that does. I'm going to go to the smudge tool and kind of blur this. I'm going to take off the snap and see what happens when whoops. Whoa, that was a bit much. I'd reduce that tool size there to something a little more manageable and just kind of smear that a little bit with the smudge tool, right? And that's a way to fake that it was drawn with a brush, you know, made with a brush. So that's kind of a fun thing to do. And that's doable because it's all on the same layer. And yeah, so the smudge tool, getting some use there. And anyway, there's a sun. How about the moon? How about the moon shape itself? Uh, sample that color and maybe make my brush a bit smaller here. Go in and do a little more accurate work. So that's like this C shape here. And, if I wanted, it's a little rough. I could, again, turn on my snap there. I think I'm going to take advantage of that. And maybe do this guy in here. There he is. And then to get that to snap back to it, back to these corners, I'm going to move my center so that it's over here like that. So I'm moving the center. And now I should be able to click on this point here and make like this moon shape. It's not quite the tightness I was after. Probably could have moved that center over a little bit, but you get the idea. And then maybe I should have done that moon on a new layer. Who's to say? But I'm gonna just keep doing it with fine strokes here to kind of mimic the other stuff we've done. And there we go. And change this color up a little bit. Just to kind of be like this other stuff that we've done. A collection of strokes, essentially. Collection of small strokes. Get some white in there. Maybe that was too light. All right. So the key to doing that well, again, is that thing was on its own layer, the whole thing. And I could move it because it's on its own layer. I could just grab hold of it and say, you know what, I want it, over here. I want to make it bigger. I could hit Control T and say, you know what, that thing, I could stand to make that larger, right? Maybe I should. Maybe it should be like that. Maybe it should be more like this. So there's a big advantage to it being on its own layer. I don't want to do that though. I think it was fine the way it was, but I was just showing you that you have the option to mess around with that stuff as, maybe I'll put it in the corner though, as you like. And I could do a couple more of these over here to be like that. In fact, I could just copy that one if I really wanted. Let's do that. So to copy a layer, you click on this button right here, duplicate layer, and now I can grab hold of it and move it over to this one. Let me turn this off and move it over to this one and maybe hit Control T on that and make it smaller. Just kind of floating around there. I could even rotate it and hit OK. And do another one. Duplicate that layer and then move it kind of underneath here. Make it smaller to create that effect that was in that other drawing, and maybe drop that one behind the previous layer. There we go. And I'll rotate it so we're not seeing the moon so much like a moon. There we go. Okay, so that's just duplicating the same one. And that's kind of this look here. Move this down. Possibly, whatever. Maybe you don't like it. I don't know. something like that. And I don't know what these things are. I guess they're supposed to be stars. We got the moon and different stars. Um, maybe on that one, you get rid of the moon. Just sample this color and just fill it in with that color there, and forget about the fact that there's a moon shape in it. We'll just erase that. Maybe this one too. Just kind of get rid of that. Or it looks like they're whiter. Maybe I could pick some kind of whiter center there. Yeah. Okay. And you could copy a couple of those, over here as well. Um, let's work on the trees now on the foreground. So making yet another layer, and talking about doing these trees. So this would be just done right on top of this stuff. I'm going to sample that color. It's a pretty dark color. It's almost black. And maybe pick this big tree. Um, Got to decide exactly where I want to do this one. They have it over here, so I think that'll be the case for me too. Just kind of like right here, and get going on that. Start with the top. Just make these dark strokes, and they're just getting kind of a little bigger each time. And it's going to go down, pretty much down to the bottom. My lake isn't going to be quite as big, so I'll just say the bottom of my lake is kind of going to be this edge that kind of just rolls around like this. So this is going to be my water's edge. And these trees are just going to get bigger and bigger as they go down until it's something like that. And so just like our waveforms, we're just going to overlap this stuff to get the texture again and again, lots and lots of this. And you could come in here with the brush and just kind of fill this in, a larger brush, and maybe I could just do that right now to kind of get the center of this thing, just make it, well, the center is going to be all black, so I'm just going to, definitely fill that portion in right now, so I don't have to worry about any of the, uh, background color showing through. So I'm just for sure getting that solid black, or this dark color, whatever that was. And then I'm going to go with these, sample that and go with the lighter colors here. These lighter greens, and definitely hit this side. This side seemed to have a lot of them. A lot of this. So it'll take shape as you do it, and just like we did with these waveforms, give it time. You're almost certain to have to come back and overlap with some of these darker colors again, like maybe not quite that dark. And so there's a tree for you. And to facilitate the process, just like before, I could duplicate that layer, hit the duplicate, and then move that guy. Oh, I forget I had the background on that layer, but that's easy to get rid of. Hit Control T, and maybe shrink that down a bit. Move that over here, and hit OK. And then actually put that one behind the other one, so it's behind that guy. So that worked out. So he's looking just kind of smaller in the background. And I could duplicate that layer again, and I think I will. And then move it over, hit Control T, make this one even smaller. It's kind of in the background over here. That's what they got going on. And hit OK. And I could change it. I could, add some color to it to make it a little different. But I'm just going to keep duplicating this just to facilitate this process. Make that smaller, hit that duplicate button, hit Control T, make that one even smaller, kind of moving it around. Hit OK. And each time making sure to put these in the background there because they're further behind, you know. This is quite a bit in the background, and then duplicate that guy. Control T, making them smaller. Duplicate. Duplicate. Control T, make them even smaller. As they get tiny though, I really don't need to have this detail. This is when I could take because it looks funny having that much detail. I could take my smudge and on these guys, uh, and just kind of blur these. Whoops. Make sure I'm on the right layer here. Just kind of blur these guys out a little bit. Just blurring that stuff so it doesn't look so much, doesn't have so much the detail these other ones do. And at some point here, I could just go to this kind of dark color and just make my own, just kind of almost like just black. Just nothing stuff like this. You can see how it's almost nothing in the background here. You can barely see what this stuff is. Just fill this in. Right. And then they start to have more shape to them. So you could start duplicating these bigger ones that you made before and kind of bring these out. Okay. So I have done this again, all just by uh, making the one tree. So that was something to keep in mind that okay. Get this shoreline taken care of here. All right. And now for the lake itself. So I need to go onto a very front layer and start doing this stuff here. Do you want to have the reflection? That would be kind of neat. Um, that's a doable thing. To do this rainbow color stuff in the water, that should be pretty simple. So let's just knock that out first. So I'm going to sample this peachy color and make this bigger and just kind of go along here and say, I want to make that more orange. I want to make it the exact orange color that I have here. I'm just going to cover up some of this here with this orange that we did. Just smoothing out the lake's edge. All right, now I'm going to go for that more peachy color and do another layer. Whoops, do another layer of that. And then this greenish that follows. I know I kind of cut myself short here. I should have had more depth for this. And then lastly, the bluish color. And then to get this effect, we could, this blurring effect, we'll do what we did before. We'll come with the blur tool, make that much larger, and just kind of blur this stuff together. I'm gonna make it even bigger than that. Just the whole width of it, and just kind of sweep it across, creating that, there we go. So I'm just blurring, smudging, kind of smudging these colors together here. And that's pretty good. And so that was the blur tool and a fairly large paintbrush, 358. Okay, so things are looking pretty good here. If I wanted to put that reflection in the water, um, basically, I have to take all my trees and flip them over, which is a doable thing. Uh, I would, but to do it, I have to basically make them all, one layer, and that is a doable thing. So we'll give it a go. I think I need to put a little black in here. Oops. Meant to have that covered. There we go. Okay. So flipping that stuff over. You know what? I'm going to get a little more of this orange. Sorry. Not quite happy with the shoreline there. Just want to put a little more of that orange as it kind of sweeps into the back there. There we go. Kind of moves back around. And then blur that. Smudge that. I keep getting that wrong. Oops. Make that bigger. That smudge tool is pretty cool. Okay. So how do you flip this around? Do you really even want to? Your call. But if you wanted to, I would take all these tree layers, select them all. There's a bunch of them. Got them all picked. And make them into one layer. So if I go to my layers, I can say merge down. Is that right? No, it did not work. Oh, it only did the first two. Not quite the flexibility that Photoshop has. If I do merge all, it will take every layer that we've made and make it into one, which is not what we want to do. What I do want to do is to just put all these tree layers on the same one, and I could do it one at a time by just selecting two, for example, these two, and saying merge down, layer, merge down, or Control E, boom, that puts them into one, and just keep doing this So I could keep doing that, hit Control E and just keep selecting more layers and putting them one by one together. And then duplicating that layer and flipping it. I'm not gonna, I'll just demonstrate that at one point in the interest of time. So let's just, for example, take this guy here, duplicate him, and then hit Control T on that one and do this flip around thing. So basically rotating it, I guess that's what I would do. And then bring it over here. Make it smaller so it's not something like that. And hit OK. I need to bring that forward so it's more visible. And there it is, kind of on top of the lake. I would want to adjust its opacity so that it wasn't quite as, so that the color was showing through more. So with that layer selected, I'd go to the opacity up here and make it lighter. So you can see it's now fading on top of my lake colors a bit. Doesn't look quite as intense as the original does. And so you could do that one at a time with each one of these if you wanted, and create that kind of shadow reflection thing going. Sorry, the reflection effect. I don't feel that it's necessary for this for me. I kind of like the lake just being the way it is, so I'm not going to have that. And I'm pretty good. I feel like the only thing I need to do here to make this thing better would be to finish up the sky um, and make the top of the sky look a little bit more like this one here, which I think is not going to be too hard. So I hopefully I can just knock that out real quick. So in a final on top layer, I'm gonna finish up the sky and be done with it. I'm gonna go back to my my brush, my acrylic brush, and with these blues, just kind of get some whites and blacks. So sampling like this, and maybe a little more white than that. Not quite as big. This layer, I feel like it's too intense. So what I'm going to do with this layer that I'm making right now is drop its opacity so you can see that I'm trying to, and I'd like to have more spread out. This is kind of the layer where it all comes together. You're taking all the elements and you're blending them together here. And I'm gonna have to drop this behind the trees once I'm done. I'll move it backward. And then again with a blur, sorry, I keep saying blur, smudge tool to do some blurring. All right, and I'm going to bring that layer, drop that layer behind, way behind everything else here. I should have had that in the background. I guess that's far enough. I have so many trees. There we go. Okay, well, turn that off. I think I'm good with that.